Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're looking to understand the hidden forces that drive influence and captivate audiences, you're in the right place. I post a new video every week exploring these fascinating dynamics, so make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out. Today, we're diving into the captivating world of mystery and scandal, from the audacious tactics of P.T. Barnum to the enigmatic allure of Mata Hari and the strategic brilliance of Hannibal. Get ready to unlock the secrets of drawing attention and wielding its power. Part 1. Surround your name with the sensational and scandalous. Draw attention to yourself by creating an unforgettable, even controversial image. Court, scandal. Do anything to make yourself seem larger than life and shine more brightly than those around you. Make no distinction between kinds of attention. Notoriety of any sort will bring you power. Better to be slandered and attacked than ignored. Compliance with the law. P.T. Barnum, 1810–1891, America's premier 19th-century showman, started his career around 1829 as an assistant to the owner of a circus, Aaron Turner. In 1836, the circus stopped in Annapolis, Maryland, for a series of performances. On the morning of opening day, Barnum, a young man known for his ambition and flair for the dramatic, took a stroll through town, wearing a new black suit. People started to follow him. Someone in the gathering crowd shouted out that he was the Reverend Ephraim K. Every born 1799, infamous as a man acquitted in 1833 of the charge of murder, but still believed guilty by most Americans. The angry mob tore off Barnum's suit and was ready to lynch him. After desperate appeals, Barnum finally convinced them to follow him to the circus, where he could verify his identity. This incident occurred during a period of heightened public interest in moral issues and criminal trials in America. The Second Great Awakening, roughly 1790–1840s, felled this moral scrutiny. Lynching, although widespread later, was still a brutal form of extrajudicial punishment feared by communities. Reverend Avery's trial was a national sensation, with extensive newspaper coverage, reflecting the growing power of media. Once there, old Turner confirmed that this was all a practical joke. He himself had spread the rumor that Barnum was Avery. The crowd dispersed, but Barnum, who had nearly been killed, was not amused. He wanted to know what could have induced his boss to play such a trick. "My dear Mr. Barnum," Turner replied, "it was all for our good. Remember, all we need to ensure success is notoriety." And indeed everyone in town was talking about the joke, and the circus was packed that night, and every night it stayed in Annapolis. Barnum had learned a lesson he would never forget. Circuses in the 19th century were a major form of entertainment in America, attracting large audiences from all social classes. Practical jokes and hoaxes were a common element of popular culture. Aaron Turner, while less famous than Barnum, was a seasoned circus owner who understood the value of public attention. Barnum's first big undertaking of his own was the American Museum, a collection of curiosities located in New York City. One day a beggar approached Barnum in the street around 1841. Instead of giving him money, Barnum decided to employ him. Taking him back to the museum, he gave the man live bricks and told him to make a slow circus several blocks. At certain points he was to lay down a brick on the sidewalk, always keeping one brick in hand. On the return journey he was to replace each brick on the street with the one he held. Meanwhile he was to remain serious of appearance and to answer no questions. Once back at the museum, he was to enter, walk around inside, then leave through the back door and make the same bricklaying circus again. New York City in the 1840s was experiencing rapid growth and urbanization, leading to increased public curiosity and a desire for novelty. Street performers and unusual sights were common. Barnum's American Museum, established in 1841, quickly became a popular attraction, capitalizing on the public's fascination with the strange and unusual. On the man's first walk through the streets, several hundred people watched his mysterious movements. By his fourth circus écoute, onlookers swarmed around him, debating what he was doing. Every time he entered the museum, he was followed by people who bought tickets to keep watching him. Many of them were distracted by the museum's collections and stayed inside. By the end of the first day, the Brickman had drawn over 1,000 people into the museum. A few days later, the police ordered him to cease and stop from his walks. The crowds were blocking traffic. The bricklaying stopped, but thousands of New Yorkers had entered the museum, and many of those had become P.T. Barnum supporters. Police forces in major American cities during the mid-19th century were beginning to form and assert authority over public spaces. Traffic management was becoming an increasing concern. Barnum's use of street stunts was a novel approach to advertising at the time, predating many modern marketing techniques. Barnum would put a band of musicians on a balcony overlooking the street, beneath a huge banner proclaiming complimentary music for the millions. What generosity, New Yorkers thought, and they flocked to hear the free concerts. But Barnum took pains to hire the poorest musicians he could find, and soon after the band started playing, people would hurry to buy tickets to the museum, where they would be out of earshot of the band's noise and of the booing of the crowd. The concept of free attractions to lure customers was a growing marketing strategy in the 19th century. However, Barnum's twist on this was characteristic of his shrewdness. Musical tastes in 19th century America varied widely, but poorly performed music was generally disliked. One of the first oddities Barnum toured around the country was Joyce Heth's circa 1680 to 1836, a woman he claimed was 161 years old, and whom he advertised as a slave who had once been George Washington's 1732-1799 nurse. After several months around 1835, the crowds began to decrease, so Barnum sent an anonymous letter to the papers, claiming that Heth was a clever fraud. Joyce Heth, he wrote, is not a human being but an automaton, made up of whalebone, rubber and numberless springs. Those who had not bothered to see her before were immediately curious, and those who had already seen her paid to see her again, to find out whether the rumor that she was a robot was true. The era of slavery in America 1619-1865 was a period of immense social and political tension. Claims connecting individuals to founding fathers like George Washington held significant public interest. The idea of automatons and mechanical marvels was a source of fascination in the 19th century, reflecting advances in technology. Joyce Heth, an African-American woman, was exhibited as a curiosity, highlighting the exploitative nature of some entertainment at the time. In Milwaukee Center, Quarantadu de B.M. Barnum purchased the carcass of what was purported to be a mermaid. This creature looked like a monkey with the body of a fish, but the head and body were perfectly joined. It was truly a wonder. After some research, Barnum discovered that the creature had been expertly put together in Japan, where the hoax had caused quite a stir. The concept of mermaids has a long history in maritime cultures around the world. In the 19th century, with increased global travel, stories and artifacts of mythical creatures circulated widely. Japanese craftsmen were known for their skill in creating elaborate and realistic-looking artifacts, including frauds for the Western market. He nevertheless planted articles in newspapers around the country claiming the capture of a mermaid in the Fiji Islands. He also sent the papers woodcut prints of paintings showing mermaids. By the time he showed the specimen in his museum, a national debate had been sparked over the existence of these mythical creatures. A few months before Barnum's campaign, no one had cared or even known about mermaids. Now everyone was talking about them as if they were real. Crowds flocked in record numbers to see the Fiji mermaid and to hear debates on the subject. Newspapers in the 19th century played a crucial role in shaping public opinion and disseminating information, making them a powerful tool for propaganda and advertising. The Fiji Islands, a remote and exotic location to Americans at the time, added to the mystery and believability of the mermaid story. A few years later, around 1844, Barnum toured Europe with General Tom Thumb 1838–1883, a 5-year-old dwarf from Connecticut whom Barnum claimed was an 11-year-old English boy, and whom he had trained to do many remarkable acts. During this tour, Barnum's name attracted such attention that Queen Victoria 1819–1901, that paragon of sobriety, requested a private audience with him and his talented dwarf at Buckingham Palace in 1845. The English press may have ridiculed Barnum, but Victoria was royally entertained by him and respected him ever after. Queen Victoria's reign 1837–1901 was a period of great social and cultural change in Britain. Her approval carried immense social weight. General Tom Thumb, born Charles Stratton, became an international celebrity under Barnum's management, performing for royalty and heads of state. In version, Barnum understood the fundamental truth about attracting attention. Once people's eyes are on you, you have a special legitimacy. For Barnum, creating interest meant creating a crowd. As he later wrote, every crowd has a silver lining, and crowds tend to act in unison. If one person stops to see your beg, Barnum laying bricks in the street, more will do the same. They will gather like dust bunnies. Then, given a gentle push, they will enter your museum or watch your show. To create a crowd, you have to do something different and unusual. Any kind of curiosity will serve the purpose, for crowds are magnetically attracted by the unusual and mysterious. And once you have their attention, never let it go. If it veers toward other people, it does so at your expense. Barnum would mercilessly suck attention from his competitors, knowing what a valuable asset it is. The rise of mass media in the 19th century, including newspapers and popular entertainment, created a culture where public attention became a valuable commodity. Barnum was a master at manipulating public curiosity and using novelty to draw crowds. At the beginning of your rise to the top, then spend all your energy on attracting attention. Most important, the quality of the attention is insignificant. No matter how badly his shows were reviewed, or how scandalously personal were the attacks on his hoaxes, Barnum would never complain. If a newspaper critic berated him particularly badly, in fact, he made sure to invite the man to an opening and to give him the best seat in the house. He would even write anonymous attacks on his own work, just to keep his name in the papers. From Barnum's perspective, attention, whether negative or positive, was the main ingredient of his success. The worst fate in the world for a man who yearns for fame, glory, and of course, power is to be ignored. The relationship between the media and public figures has always been complex, with both positive and negative attention holding value in different contexts. Barnum's strategy of welcoming negative attention was a bold and unconventional approach to public relations. Pathway to authority: burning more brightly than those around you is a skill that no one is born with. You have to learn to attract attention as surely as the lodestone attracts iron. At the start of your career, you must attack your name and reputation to a quality, an image, that sets you apart from other people. This image can be something like a characteristic style of dress, or a personality quirk that amuses people and gets talked about. Once the image is established, you have an appearance, a place in the sky for your star. This emphasizes the importance of early branding and creating a distinctive public persona. The Industrial Revolution, roughly 1760–1840, saw the rise of individuals seeking to distinguish themselves in a rapidly changing society. P.T. Barnum, 1810–1891, for example, carefully cultivated his image as a showman. A lodestone is a naturally magnetized piece of mineral, and the analogy highlights the power of attraction. It is a common mistake to imagine that this peculiar appearance of yours should not be controversial, that to be attacked is somehow bad. Nothing could be further from the truth. To avoid being a flash in the pan, and having your notoriety eclipsed by another, you must not differentiate between different types of attention. In the end, every kind will work in your favor. Barnum, we have seen, welcomed personal attacks and felt no need to defend himself. He deliberately cultivated the image of being a humbug. The court of Louis XIV, 1638–1705, contained many talented writers, artists, great beauties, and men and women of impeccable virtue, but no one was more talked about than the singular Duc de Lauzun, 1639–1712. The Duke, a French nobleman known for his eccentricities and audacity, was short, almost dwarfish, and he was prone to the most insolent kinds of behavior. He slept with the king's mistress, and openly insulted not only other courtiers, but the king himself. Louis, however, was so beguiled by the Duke's eccentricities that he could not endure his absences from the court. It was simple, the strangeness of the Duke's character attracted attention. Once people were enthralled by him, they wanted him around at any cost. The reign of Louis XIV is considered the golden age of French culture and power, with a lavish court at Versailles that attracted attention throughout Europe. Courtiers often resorted to dramatic behavior to gain the king's favor. Anna de Lorraine, Duchesse de Montpensier, 1639–1660, Duchesse, was a portine furture at court and a cousin of Louis XIV. Her relationship with Lauzun was indeed scandalous. Society craves larger-than-life figures, people who stand above the general averagenius. Never be afraid, then, of the qualities that set you apart and draw attention to you. Court controversy, even scandal. It is better to be attacked, even slandered, than ignored. All professions are ruled by this law, and all professionals must have a bit of the showman about them. The great scientist Thomas Edison, 1847–1931, knew that to raise money, he had to remain in the public eye at any cost. Almost as important as the inventions themselves was how he presented them to the public and sought attention. Edison would design usually dazzling experiments to display his discoveries with electricity. He would talk of future inventions that seemed fantastic at the time, robots and machines that could photograph thought, and that he had no intention of devoting his energy to, but that made the public talk about him. He did everything he could to make sure that he received more attention than his great rival Nikola Tesla, 1856–1943, who may actually have been more brilliant than he was, but whose name was far less known. In 1915, it was rumored that Edison and Tesla would be joint recipients of that year's Nobel Prize in Physics. The prize was eventually given to a pair of English physicists. Only later was it discovered that the prize committee had actually approached Edison, but he had turned them down, declining to share the prize with Tesla. By that time his fame was more secure than Tesla's, and he thought it better to refuse the honor than to allow his rival the attention that would have come even from sharing the prize. The late 19th and early 20th centuries saw intense competition among inventors, with public attention often translating to financial success. The war of the currents between Edison and Tesla is a prime example. The Nobel Prizes were established in 1895 by Alfred Nobel's will and first awarded in 1901. The Physics Prize recognizes significant advancements in the field. If you find yourself in a lowly position that offers little opportunity for you to draw attention, an effective trick is to attack the most visible, most famous, most powerful person you can find. When Pietro Artino (1492–1556), a young Roman servant boy of the early 16th century, wanted to get attention as a writer of verses, he decided to publish a series of satirical poems ridiculing Pope Leo X (1475–1521) and his affection for a pet elephant. The attack put Artino, an Italian writer and satirist known for his wit and scurrilous writings, in the public eye immediately. A slanderous attack on a person in a position of power would have a similar effect. Remember, however, to use such tactics sparingly after you have the public's attention, when the act can become thin. The Renaissance was a period of great artistic and intellectual flourishing, but also of political intrigue and power struggles, including within the Catholic Church. Satire was a popular form of social commentary. Pope Leo X was known for his patronage of the arts and his lavish lifestyle. The presence of exotic animals like elephants in Renaissance courts was a symbol of power and wealth. Once in the limelight, you must constantly renew it by adapting and varying your method of seeking attention. If you don't, the public will grow tired, will take you for granted, and will move on to a newer star. The game requires constant awareness and creativity. Pablo Picasso, 1881–1973, never allowed himself to fade into the background. If his name became too attached to a particular style, he would deliberately upset the public with a new series of paintings that went against all expectations. Better to create something ugly and disturbing, he believed, than to let viewers grow too familiar with his work. Understand, people feel superior to the person whose actions they can predict. If you show them who is in control by playing against their expectations, you both gain their respect and lessen your hold on their fleeting attention. Authority: be showy and be seen. What is not seen is as though it did not exist. It was light that first caused all creation to shine forth. Display fills up many blanks, covers up deficiencies, and gives everything a second life, especially when it is backed by genuine merit. Baltasar Gracián, 1661–1658. Pablo Picasso was a highly influential Spanish artist of the 20th century, known for his constant innovation and revolutionary styles like Cubism. His ability to shock and surprise the public was a key element of his long-lasting fame. Baltasar Gracián was a Spanish Jesuit priest and writer of the Baroque period, known for his aphoristic and cynical writings on power and wisdom.
Part 2. Create an air of mystery in a world growing increasingly ordinary and familiar. What seems enigmatic instantly draws attention. Never make it too clear what you are doing or about to do. Do not show all your cards. An air of mystery heightens your presence. It also creates anticipation. Everyone will be watching you to see what happens next. Use mystery to beguile, seduce, even frighten. The early 20th century saw a growing fascination with the exotic and the unknown in European society, reflecting increased global interconnectedness
and a reaction against conventional norms. The concept of mystery has long been used as a tool for attraction, from ancient religious rituals to modern marketing. Compliance with the law beginning. In 1905, rumors started to spread throughout Paris of a young Oriental girl who danced in a private home, wrapped in veils that she gradually discarded. A local journalist who had seen her dancing reported that a woman from the Far East had come to Euroclydon with perfume and jewels to introduce some of the richness of the Oriental color and life into the bored society of European cities. Soon everyone knew the dancer's name, Mata Hari, 1876, 194. Paris in the Belle Époque, roughly 1871–1914, was a hub of artistic innovation, cultural exchange, and a certain degree of social liberation. Journalism was a powerful force in shaping public opinion and creating celebrities during this era. Mata Hari, born Margaretha Geertruida Zell, was a Dutch woman who became famous in Paris as an exotic dancer. Early that year, in the winter of 1905, small and select audience would gather in a salon filled with Indian statues and other relics while an orchestra played music inspired by Hindu and Javanese melodies. After keeping the audience waiting and wondering, Mata Hari would suddenly appear in a striking costume, a white cotton brassiere covered with Indian-type jewels, jeweled bands at the waist supporting, a sarong that revealed as much as it concealed, bracelets up the arms. Then Mata Hari would dance in a style no one in France had seen before, her whole body swaying, as if she were in a trance. She told her excited and curious audience that her dances told stories from Indian mythology and Javanese folktales. Soon the elite of Paris and ambassadors from far-off lands were competing for invitations to the salon, where it was rumored that Mata Hari was actually performing sacred dances in the nude. The use of exotic settings and costumes was a common tactic for attracting attention in the entertainment world. The Orientalist movement in art and literature had created a romanticized view of Eastern cultures. Hinduism and Javanese culture were relatively unknown to most Europeans, adding to the mystic of Mata Hari's performances. The public wanted to know more about her. She told journalists that she was actually Dutch in origin, but had grown up on the island of Java, part of the Dutch East Indies at the time. She would also talk about time spent in India, how she had learned sacred Hindu dances there, and how Indian women can shoot straight, ride horseback, and are capable of doing logarithms and talk philosophy. By the summer of 1905, although few Parisians had actually seen Mata Hari dance, her name was on everyone's lips. The Dutch East Indies, now Indonesia, were a source of exotic goods and stories for Europeans. Java has a rich cultural history, including traditional dance forms. The idea of women in exotic lands possessing unconventional skills challenged European stereotypes. As Mata Hari gave more interviews, the story of her origins kept changing. She had grown up in India. Her grandmother was the daughter of a Japanese princess. She had lived on the island of Sumatra, where she had spent her time horse riding, gun in hand, and risking her life. No one knew for certain anything about her, but journalists did not mind these changes in her biography. They compared her to an Indian goddess, a creature from the pages of Charles Baudelaire, 1821–1867. Whatever their imagination wanted to see in this mysterious woman from the East. Charles Baudelaire was a famous French poet, associated with symbolism and decadence, often exploring the mysterious and the exotic in his work. The willingness of the public and the media to accept inconsistent stories highlights the power of a desire for mystery and romance.
In August of 1905, Mata Hari 1876-1917 performed for the first time in public at the Musée Guimet in Paris. Crowds thronging to see her on opening night caused a riot. She had now become a cult figure, spawning many imitations. One reviewer wrote, "Mata Hari personifies all the poetry of India, its mysticism, its voluptuousness, its hypnotizing charm." Another noted, "If India possesses such unexpected treasures, then all Frenchmen will emigrate to the shores of the Ganges." The Musée Guimet, founded in 1889, was and is a prominent museum of Asian arts in Paris, lending credibility to Mata Hari's Oriental performances. The early 20th century saw a surge of interest in exotic cultures in Europe, often romanticized and misrepresented. Soon the fame of Mata Hari and her sacred Indian dances spread beyond Paris. She was invited to Berlin, Vienna, Milan. Over the next few years she performed throughout Europe, mixed with the highest social circles, and earned an income that gave her an independence rarely enjoyed by a woman of the period. Then, near the end of World War I, 1914-1918, she was arrested in France in 1917, tried, convicted, and finally executed by firing squad as a German spy on October 15, 1917. World War I created an atmosphere of suspicion and espionage throughout Europe. Many individuals, including celebrities, were accused of spying for the enemy. Women in the early 20th century faced significant social and economic limitations, making Mata Hari's independence and wealth unusual. Only during the trial did the truth come out. Mata Hari was not from Java or India, had not grown up in the Orient, did not have a drop of Eastern blood in her body. Her real name was Margaretha Zell, and she came from the steady northern province of Friesland, Holland. Friesland is a province in the north of the Netherlands known for its distinct culture and language. The revelation of Mata Hari's true identity shocked the public and undermined the mystic she had carefully cultivated. In version when Margaretha Zell arrived in Paris, in 1904 she had half a franc in her pocket. She was one of the thousands of beautiful young girls who flocked to Paris every year, taking work as artists, models, nightclub dancers, Oregon vaudeville performers at the Folies Berger. After a few years they would inevitably be replaced by younger girls and would often end up on the streets, turning to prostitution, Oregon, else returning to the town they came from, older and disappointed. Paris in the early 20th century was a magnet for artists and performers from around the world, creating a competitive and often exploitative environment. The Folies Berger was a famous Parisian music hall known for its elaborate revues and beautiful performers. Zell had higher ambitions. She had no dance experience and had never performed in the theater. But as a young girl she had traveled with her family and had witnessed local dances in Java and Sumatra, then part of the Dutch East Indies. Zell clearly understood that what was important in her act was not the dance itself or even her face or figure, but her ability to create an air of mystery about herself. The mystery she created lay not just in her dancing, Oregon her costumes, Oregon the stories she would tell, Oregon her endless lies about her origins. It lay in an atmosphere encompassing everything she did. There was nothing you could say for sure about her. She was always changing, always surprising her audience with new costumes, new dances, new stories. This air of mystery left the public always wanting to know more, always wondering about her next move. Mata Hari was no more beautiful than many of the other young girls who came to Paris, and she was not a particularly good dancer. What separated her from the masses, what attracted and held the public's attention and made her famous and wealthy, was her mystery. The Dutch colonial presence in the East Indies provided opportunities for some Europeans to experience and observe local cultures, albeit often through a colonial lens.
The power of narrative and storytelling in shaping public perception was a key element of Mata Hari's success. People are enthralled by mystery because it invites constant interpretation. They never tire of it. The mysterious cannot be grasped, and what cannot be seized and consumed creates power. The human brain is naturally drawn to the unknown, seeking patterns and meaning in ambiguity. In a world increasingly explained by science, mystery retains a powerful allure. Pathway to authority. In the past, the world was filled with the terrifying and unknowable. Diseases, disasters, capricious despots, the mystery of death itself. What we could not understand we reimagined as myths and spirits. Over the centuries, though, we have managed, through science and reason, to illuminate the darkness. What was mysterious and forbidding has grown familiar and comfortable. Yet this light has a price in a world that is ever more mundane, that has had its mystery and myth squeezed out of it. We secretly crave enigmas, people or things that cannot be instantly understood, seized and consumed. The Enlightenment, roughly the 18th century, emphasized reason and science as a means of understanding the world, leading to a decline in traditional beliefs and mysteries. The rise of scientific inquiry and technological advancement has gradually explained many natural phenomena that were once considered mysterious. That is the power of the mysterious. It invites layers of interpretation, excites our imagination, seduces into believing that it conceals something marvelous. The world has become so familiar, and its inhabitants so predictable, that what wraps itself in mystery will almost always draw the limelight to it and make us watch it. The Romantic movement, late 18th and early 19th centuries, saw a resurgence of interest in mystery, the imagination, and the sublime, as a reaction against the emphasis on pure reason. Celebrities and public figures often cultivate an air of mystery to maintain public interest and fascination. Do not imagine that to create an air of mystery, you have to be grand and awe-inspiring. Mystery that is woven into your day-to-day behavior and is subtle has that much more power to fascinate and attract attention. Remember, most people are up front, can be read like an open book, take little care to control their words or image, and are hopelessly predictable. By simply holding back, keeping silent, occasionally uttering ambiguous phrases, deliberately appearing inconsistent, and acting odd in the subtlest of ways, you will emanate an aura of mystery. The people around you will then magnify that aura by constantly trying to interpret you. The art of subtlety and indirection can be a powerful tool in social interactions. Psychological studies show that people are more intrigued by what is uncertain or incompletely revealed. Both artists and con artists understand the vital link between being mysterious and attracting interest. Count Victor Lustig, 1890–1947, the aristocrat of swindlers, played the game to perfection. He was always doing things that were different. Oregon seemed to make no sense. He would show up at the best hotels in a limo driven by a Japanese chauffeur. No one had ever seen a Japanese chauffeur before, so this seemed exotic and strange. Lustig would dress in the most expensive clothing, but always with something, a medal, a flower, an armband, out of place, at least in conventional terms. This was seen not as tasteless, but as odd and intriguing. In hotels he would be seen receiving telegrams at all hours, one after the other, brought to him by his Japanese chauffeur, telegrams he would tear up with utter nonchalance. In fact, they were fakes, completely blank. He would sit alone in the dining room, reading a large and impressive-looking book, smiling at people yet remaining aloof. Within a few days, of course, the entire hotel would be buzzing with interest in this strange man. Count Victor Lustig was a notorious con artist, known for his elaborate scams, including selling the Eiffel Tower for scrap metal. The early 20th century saw increased global travel and the emergence of new social types, making unusual sights like a Japanese chauffeur more noticeable.
All this attention allowed Lustig to lure suckers in with ease. They would beg for his confidence and his company. Everyone wanted to be seen with this mysterious aristocrat, and in the presence of this distracting enigma, they wouldn't even notice that they were being robbed blind. The desire for social status and association with mysterious or glamorous figures is a common human trait that con artists exploit. Lustig's success relied on creating a believable facade of wealth and importance. An air of mystery can make the mediocre appear intelligent and profound. It made Mata Hari, a woman of average appearance and intelligence, seem like a goddess, and her dancing divinely inspired. An air of mystery about an artist makes his or her artwork immediately more intriguing. A trick. Marcel Duchamp, 1887–1968. It is all very easy to do, or say little about your work, tease and titillate with awing, even contradictory comments, then stand back and let others try to make sense of it all. Marcel Duchamp was a French-American artist associated with Dada and Surrealism, known for his conceptual art and ready-mades, which often challenged conventional artistic norms and created mystery. The power of suggestion and ambiguity in art can stimulate the viewer's imagination and lead to multiple interpretations. Mysterious people put others in a kind of inferior position, that of trying to figure them out. To degrees that they can control, they also elicit the fear surrounding anything uncertain or unknown. All great leaders know that an aura of mystery draws attention to them and creates an intimidating presence. Mao Tse-tung, 1893–1976, for example, cleverly cultivated an enigmatic image. He had no worries about seeming inconsistent or contradicting himself. The very contradictoriness of his actions and words meant that he always had the upper hand. No one, not even his own wife, Jiang Qing, 1914–1991, ever felt they understood him, and he therefore seemed larger than life. This also meant that the public paid constant attention to him, ever anxious to witness his next move. Mao Tse-tung was the chairman of the Communist Party of China and a central figure in the Chinese Revolution. His leadership style often involved ambiguity and unpredictability. Jiang Qing was Mao Tse-tung's fourth wife, and a powerful figure in her own right, especially during the Cultural Revolution 1966–1976. Her relationship with Mao was complex and often opaque to outsiders. If your social position prevents you from completely wrapping your actions in mystery, you must at least learn to make yourself less obvious. Every now and then, act in a way that does not match other people's perception of you. This way you keep those around you on the defensive, eliciting the kind of attention that makes you powerful. Done right, the creation of enigma can also draw the kind of attention that strikes terror into your enemy. Unpredictability can be a strategic advantage in both personal and political interactions. The element of surprise can disrupt an opponent's plans and create a sense of power imbalance. During the Second Punic War 218–201 BCE, the great Carthaginian general Hannibal, 247–183 BCE, was wreaking havoc in his march on Rome. Hannibal was known for his cleverness and deceit. Under his leadership, Carthage army, though smaller than those of the Romans, had constantly outmaneuvered them. On one occasion, though, Hannibal's scouts made a horrible blunder, leading his troops into a marshy terrain with the sea at their back. The Roman army blocked the mountain passes that led inland, and its general Fabius Maximus circa 280 BCE, 203 BCE Pulse OC Sextatic. At last he had Hannibal trapped. Posting his best sentries on the passes, he worked on a plan to destroy Hannibal's forces. But in the middle of the night, the sentries looked down to see a mysterious sight. A huge procession of lights was heading up the mountain. Thousands and thousands of lights. If this was Hannibal's army, it had suddenly grown 100-fold. The sentries argued heatedly about what this could mean. Reinforcements from the CA,
troops that had been hidden in the area. Ghosts, no explanation made sense. The Second Punic War was a pivotal conflict in ancient history, marked by Hannibal's brilliant military tactics against the Roman Republic. Hannibal's invasion of Italy is famous for his crossing of the Alps with elephants. Fabius Maximus was known for his Fabian strategy of delaying and wearing down Hannibal's forces rather than engaging in direct battle. As they watched, fires broke out all over the mountain, and a horrible noise drifted up to them from below like the blowing of a million horns. Demons, they thought. The sentries, the bravest and most sensible in the Roman army, fled their posts in a panic. By the next day, Hannibal had escaped from the marshland. What was his trick? Had he really conjured up demons? Actually, what he had done was order bundles of twigs to be fastened to the horns of the thousands of oxen that traveled with his troops as beasts of burden. The twigs were then lit. The use of deception and psychological warfare was a common tactic in ancient military strategy. Oxen were commonly used as draft animals in ancient armies for transporting supplies,
giving the impression of the torches of a vast army heading up the mountain. When the flames burned down to the oxen's skin, they stampeded in all directions, bellowing like mad and setting fires all over the mountainside. The key to this device's success was not the torches, the fires, or even the noises in themselves, however, but the fact that Hannibal 247-183 BCE had created a puzzle that captivated the sentries' attention and gradually terrified them. From the mountain top, there was no way to explain this bizarre sight. If the sentries could have explained it, they would have stayed at their posts. This tactic highlights the power of psychological manipulation in warfare. The unexplained often breeds fear and disorder. The use of animals in military deception has been employed in various forms throughout history. If you find yourself trapped, cornered, and on the defensive in some situation, try a simple experiment. Do something that cannot be easily explained or understood. Choose a simple action, but carry it out in a way that unsettles your opponent. A way with many possible meanings, making your intentions unclear. Don't just be unpredictable, although this tactic too can be successful. Like Hannibal, create a scene that cannot be read. There will seem to be no method to your madness, no rhyme or reason, no single explanation. If you do this right, you will inspire fear and trembling, and the sentries will abandon their posts. Call it the feigned madness of Hamlet. Tactic for Hamlet, a fictional prince of Denmark. Protagonist of Shakespeare's play Hamlet, written around 1599-1601, uses it to great effect in Shakespeare's play, frightening his stepfather Claudius, a fictional character in Hamlet, through the mystery of his behavior. The mysterious makes your forces seem larger, your power more terrifying. Authority. If you do not declare yourself immediately, you arouse expectation. Mix a little mystery with everything, and the very mystery stirs up veneration. And when you explain, be not too explicit. In this manner, you imitate the divine way when you cause men to wonder and watch. Balthazar Gracian, 1601-1658, William Shakespeare 1564-1616 was an English playwright, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language. Hamlet is one of his most famous and analyzed tragedies. The use of feigned madness as a strategic ploy appears in literature and history across cultures. Turn around. In the beginning of your rise to the top, you must attract attention at all cost, but as you rise higher you must constantly adapt. Never wear the public out with the same tactic. An air of mystery works wonders for those who need to develop an aura of power and get themselves noticed, but it must seem measured and under control. Mata Hari, 1876-1917, went too far with her fabrications, although the accusation that she was a spy was false. Some historians argue the evidence was weak. At the time it was a reasonable presumption because all her lies made her seem suspicious and wicked. Do not let your air of mystery be slowly transformed into a reputation for deceit.
The mystery you create must seem a game, playful and unthreatening. Recognize when it goes too far and pull back. The line between mystery and deception can be thin, and overdoing the mystic can lead to distrust. The case of Mata Hari remains a subject of debate among historians, with questions about the validity of the espionage charges. There are times when the need for attention must be postponed, and when scandal and notoriety are the last things you want to create. The attention you attract must never offend or challenge the reputation of those above you, not, at any rate if they are secure. You will seem not only insignificant but desperate by comparison. There is an art to knowing when to draw notice and when to withdraw. Social hierarchies and respect for authority figures often dictate when it is appropriate to seek attention. Overt ambition can be perceived negatively by those in power. Lola Montez, 1821–1861, born Eliza Rosanna Gilbert, was one of the great practitioners of the art of attracting attention. She managed to rise from a middle-class Irish background to being the lover of Franz Liszt, 1811–1886, the Hungarian composer and pianist around 1847, and then the mistress and political advisor of King Ludwig I of Bavaria, 1786–1868, from 1846 to 1848. In her later years, though, she lost her sense of balance. Lola Montez was a celebrated and controversial Irish dancer and adventuress who captivated European society. Franz Liszt was a leading figure of the Romantic era in music, known for his virtuosity and influence. King Ludwig I's reign in Bavaria was marked by bold cultural achievements and political upheaval, in part due to his relationship with Lola Montez. In London in 1850, there was to be a performance of Shakespeare's Macbeth featuring the greatest actor of the time, Charles John Kean, 1811–1868. Everyone of importance in English society was to be there. It was rumored that even Queen Victoria, 1819–1901, and Prince Albert, 1819–1861, were to make a public appearance. The custom of the period demanded that everyone be seated before the Queen arrived. So the audience got there a little early, and when the Queen entered her royal box, they observed the convention of standing up and applauding her. The royal couple waited, then bowed, everyone sat down, and the lights were dimmed. Then suddenly, all eyes turned to a box opposite Queen Victoria's. A woman appeared from the shadows, taking her seat later than the Queen. It was Lola Montez. She wore a diamond tiara on her dark hair, and a long fur coat over her shoulders. People whispered in amazement as the arming cloak was dropped to reveal a low-necked gown of crimson velvet. By turning their heads, the audience could see that the royal couple deliberately avoided looking at Lola's box. They followed Victoria's example, and for the rest of the evening Lola Montez was ignored. After that evening, no one in fashionable society dared to be seen with her. All her magnetic powers were reversed. People would flee her sight. Her future in England was finished. Charles John Kean was a prominent English Shakespearean actor and theatre manager of the mid-19th century. Queen Victoria's reign was a period of strict social etiquette and decorum in Britain. Public performances attended by the royal family were significant social events with rigid protocols. Never appear overly eager for attention, then for it signals insecurity, and insecurity drives power away. Understand that there are times when it is not in your interest to be the center of attention. When in the presence of a king or queen, for instance Oregon, the equivalent there of bow and retreat to the shadows never compete. Humility and deference can be strategically advantageous when dealing with those in positions of higher authority. Discretion and timing are crucial in navigating social and political landscapes. So, what do you think about the power of mystery and the allure of the scandalous? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the art of influence and the dynamics of power, coming to you every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.